We begin at the White House, where President Donald Trump spoke to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky during an hour-long phone call on Wednesday. The White House revealed that the commander-in-chief proposed that the U.S. take ownership of Ukrainian power plants to ensure their protection and efficient operation.
President Trump also discussed Ukraine's electrical supply and nuclear power plants. He said that the United States could be very helpful in running those plants with its electricity and utility expertise. American ownership of those plants would be the best protection for that infrastructure and support for Ukrainian energy infrastructure.
President Zelensky, while acknowledging the proposal primarily focused on military aid, however, he requested additional Patriot missile defense systems to counter Russian attacks. Now, in response to President Zelensky's concerns, President Trump agreed to help relocate these systems from Europe to Ukraine. The two leaders also arranged for their technical teams to meet in Saudi Arabia in the coming days to work on the specifics of a partial ceasefire.
Believe it was substantive. Over the recent period, this is probably the most substantive conversation. The mood was right, sufficiently detailed. We discussed our next steps, the demands for partial ceasefire. I don't know what our partners will confirm, but we will prepare for this meeting in Saudi Arabia. As for additional demands from the U.S., I told you, no.
Now, the conversation with President Zelensky follows President Trump's longer phone call with Vladimir Putin on Tuesday. During that discussion, the Russian leader agreed to halt attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructure. However, Moscow refused to accept a full 30-day ceasefire. Meanwhile, Ukraine has confirmed that Russia launched over 150 drones overnight, striking civilian areas and key infrastructure, raising doubts about the credibility of Moscow's commitments.
We are skeptical when it comes to trusting the Russians. There is no trust to Putin. That's why I am saying we need to understand how it will work technically so that it will not depend on their desire only. That is it.
Meanwhile, both Russia and Ukraine have engaged in a prisoner exchange, with each country releasing 175 soldiers. Russia also freed 22 wounded Ukrainian troops in what it called a goodwill gesture.
Слава Україні!
We are home, happy, in our native Ukraine, on our land. We have gone through a very difficult path. I hope that all the guys will return home soon.
As Donald Trump attempts to try to find a way toward peace, the world watches closely. With more negotiations ahead, will the commander-in-chief's diplomatic push lead to a lasting ceasefire, or will tensions continue to rise?
Do you think that Ukraine is at its weakest position?
This war is not about Ukraine.
Do you believe that your president was insulted? Yes or no question. Is Ukraine prepared to pay the price for that peace?
No compromises at the cost of territorial integrity and sovereignty.
Diplomacy will work?
Yes.
Do you think Russia will give up the territory if there is no ceasefire? Do you propose to keep fighting?
We are ready to resist.
Do you think there will be peace?
Many countries gave us 3 days.
President Trump said you don't have any cards.
We do not have another choice.
How do you keep fighting?
You ask me once again the same question.
Because you've not answered my question.
We have enough capacities to keep fighting.
Good afternoon, Prime Minister Lakshman.
Good afternoon.
Making headlines in India well before you landed here.
New Delhi has raised concerns in the recent past vis-a-vis the Khalistani separatists that operate in New Zealand. How do you propose to address these concerns?
In our democracy, we believe in the freedom of speech.
Organizations like the Al-Qaeda or ISIS were to hold a referendum in New Zealand, something related to one of your Western partners. Would you say the same?
We have very well-defined laws in our democracy.
No specific conversation on Khalistan on this visit.
It was raised with me. I also raised back our position.
Are you willing to be open to these concerns from New Delhi?
As I keep coming back to you to say, we have strong laws in our system.